Hello, my name is Darian. I was a happy kid up until the age of 11. You might wonder why? Well, it was around this time that my parents gave me some heartbreaking news. They told me that my aunt and uncle had passed away in a car accident, leaving their only son, Mikael, all alone. From then on, Mikael was going to live with us. When they walked through the door, I rushed over to welcome them. Hiding behind my dad's legs was a small, shaggy-haired boy with glasses. His name was Mikael. My mom introduced us and then took him around to show him the house. That's when my dad pulled me aside and told me that Mikael was very shy and that it was our job to make him feel at home. At first, everything seemed fine, but it didn't take long for our differences to surface. It started with dinner. As we sat down to eat my favorite meal, we discovered that Mikael was allergic to it. From that day on, we never had that meal together again. We don't want Mikael to feel left out, my parents would tell me. The differences between us became even more apparent at school. Mikael was apparently gifted and performed above his grade level, while I was just barely getting by. That's when his awards started piling up, making the honor roll, scoring the highest in a regional math competition, winning spelling bees, and excelling in academic decathlons. His awards could practically form a small mountain. Who could compete with that? I tried to be the big brother, but everything I was good at, Mikael struggled with. We tried hockey, but he kept falling. Then I attempted to teach him soccer, but he was terrified of being hit by the ball. The worst part was when he got hurt or injured. My parents would yell at me to keep him safe. And when I tried to play without him to avoid him getting hurt, they scolded me for not spending enough time with him. I felt like I couldn't win. Then came a moment that was incredibly important to me. A big soccer match that I was so proud of. I knew my parents wouldn't miss it for the world. I thought this was finally going to be my moment to shine and get some attention. But that's not what happened. We won the match, and I even scored the final goal. Everyone was celebrating, and it felt amazing. But where were my parents? When I looked around, they were nowhere to be seen. My coach came over and told me that my dad had called to let him know they wouldn't make it. I was heartbroken. My parents said that Mikael's event ran late, and they got stuck in traffic. But I wasn't listening. On the way home, they kept apologizing and explained how they lost track of time. They talked about everything that happened at Mikael's event, and then asked me how my match went. I stayed silent. When we got home, I could feel tears building up in my eyes, but I was determined not to let them fall. My dad unlocked the door, and I ran straight to my room without looking back. They said they wanted to make it up to me by giving me a gift, going camping together like we used to. When we arrived at the campsite, I found myself getting excited again without even realizing it. I thought about how my mom used to help me set up the tent, how my dad and I would fish in the boat, and how we'd sit by the campfire at night, laughing and telling stories. Sadly, that happiness didn't last long. When it was time to set up the tent, my parents told me to work with Mikael and teach him how to do it, like a big brother. But it didn't go well. Mikael couldn't do anything right, so my mom ended up helping him set up the tent herself, just like she used to teach me. When it was time to fish, the three of us went out in the boat, but Mikael got seasick, and we had to return early. It felt like the same thing all over again. No matter where we were or what we did, everything revolved around Mikael. So I came up with a plan for revenge. I convinced my parents to let me and Mikael go explore the area. Once they agreed, I took Mikael deep into the forest and thought I'd leave him there to scare him a little. Mikael was busy looking at insects on the ground, and I used the chance to sneak away. But my plan backfired. When I looked around, I realized I had no idea where I was. Everything looked the same. In trying to escape from Mikael, I had lost my own way. Long story short, I was lost. I tried to find my way back to the campsite, but it was no use. I started to panic. A thought crossed my mind. Maybe this is my punishment for what I tried to do to Mikael. As it started to get dark, I began shouting for help, thinking no one would ever find me. And then I saw him. Mikael came running through the bushes. He hugged me tightly and said, "I'm so glad I found you." I have no idea how he did it, but he grabbed my hand and led me out of the forest. As we walked, I could hear him humming to himself. It seemed like he had memorized the directions in his head. When we reached the campsite, the sun had fully set and the sky was filled with stars. My parents rushed over as soon as they saw us emerging from the trees. They were shouting about how worried they had been and why they had told us not to wander so far. When they turned their attention to me, I braced myself to be scolded. But then Mikael stepped forward. "I'm sorry," he began. "Darian warned me, but I ran off on my own." I was stunned. My parents told Mikael to be more careful and to listen to his brother next time. After they left, I turned to Mikael and asked him why he took the blame. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "That's what brothers do for each other." I smiled back at him, put my arm around his shoulder, and we walked toward the campfire. That night, we told stories and gazed at the stars. The next day, Mikael volunteered to stay with Mom so that Dad and I could go fishing together. No matter what ups and downs we've had in the past, or what challenges the future may bring, I'm truly glad to have my little brother by my side.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you great content. See you in the next one.